What if I told you that the biggest transportation revolution since the automobile might not begin on a highway, but in the sky? For decades, we've been promised flying cars. Every few years, another futuristic prototype would appear at a technology exhibition. Headlines would proclaim that the future had finally arrived, and then the excitement would quietly fade away. The batteries weren't good enough, regulations moved too slowly, costs remained far too high, and most of those ambitious projects never made it beyond a handful of demonstration flights. But something feels different this time. Across China, electric aircraft are no longer being built simply to impress investors or attract media attention. They are being tested, certified, manufactured, and integrated into a much broader strategy that aims to create an entirely new way of moving people through cities. And if that strategy works, historians might one day look back at this period as the point when personal flight stopped being science fiction and became practical transportation. The aircraft itself is fascinating, but this story is about more than just the machine. It's the ecosystem growing around it. Let's take a closer look. For most of aviation history, flying has depended on three things: a runway, a highly trained pilot, and an airport capable of handling both. Electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, better known as eVTOLs, challenge all three assumptions. Instead of accelerating down a runway like an airplane, they lift straight into the air using multiple electric propellers before transitioning into forward flight. In theory, that means they could eventually operate from rooftops, parking structures, or purpose-built landing pads much closer to where people actually live and work. One of the companies attracting the most attention in this rapidly growing industry is EHang. Its EH216-S is a fully electric aircraft designed to carry 2 passengers while relying heavily on automated flight systems rather than conventional pilot controls. Instead of asking ordinary people to learn how to fly, the long-term vision is much simpler. Passengers choose a destination, and the aircraft takes care of the rest while remaining connected to operators and safety systems on the ground. The goal isn't to reinvent aviation. It is to make flying feel almost as straightforward as stepping into an elevator. The aircraft itself immediately stands out because it looks nothing like a traditional helicopter. Rather than relying on one enormous rotor, it uses 16 smaller propellers distributed around the cabin. At first glance, that might seem unnecessarily complicated, but there's solid engineering behind the design. It also adds extra redundancy because propulsion is provided by a number of independent electric motors. Advanced flight control computers can make constant adjustments every second of the journey. Onboard systems are monitoring wind conditions, power output, balance, and dozens of other variables every second, making thousands of tiny corrections that help keep the aircraft stable. It is the kind of continuous precision that would be extraordinarily difficult for even an experienced pilot to replicate manually. Of course, none of that matters if people don't trust the aircraft enough to step inside. Safety remains the biggest challenge facing the entire eVTOL industry, and manufacturers know that public confidence will ultimately determine whether these vehicles become part of everyday life or remain a technological curiosity. That's why modern aircraft are being designed with multiple overlapping safety systems. Battery management software constantly monitors electrical performance. Flight computers continuously check the health of critical components, and automated systems are intended to respond far faster than any human could if something unexpected occurs. Like every form of transportation, no aircraft can ever eliminate risk entirely, but the objective is to remove as many single points of failure as engineering allows. This is where the story becomes much bigger than one aircraft. The reason China has moved so quickly isn't simply because one company built an impressive machine. It's because the country spent years building many of the industries that electric aviation depends on long before most people were paying attention. Over the past decade, Enormous investments in electric vehicles created vast manufacturing capacity for batteries, electric motors, power electronics, lightweight materials, and automated production. Those same technologies happen to be exactly what modern electric aircraft require. That creates an advantage that extends far beyond engineering alone. Instead of developing every major component within a small aerospace supply chain, manufacturers can build upon technologies already being produced at tremendous scale for millions of electric vehicles. As production expands and manufacturing techniques continue to improve, the cost of those components can gradually fall, making the economics of electric aviation far more attractive than they might otherwise have been. History has repeatedly shown that large-scale manufacturing often determines which technologies become mainstream, and this industry may prove no different. Yet even building affordable aircraft solves only half the problem. Imagine thousands of these vehicles flying above a major city every day. They would need dedicated landing sites, charging infrastructure, maintenance facilities, sophisticated digital traffic management, weather monitoring, emergency response systems, and communication networks that could coordinate thousands of flights safely. Without that supporting infrastructure, even the most advanced aircraft would have nowhere to operate. Recognizing that challenge, China has begun promoting what it describes as the low-altitude economy, an initiative that looks beyond individual aircraft and focuses instead on creating an entirely new transportation ecosystem. Several regions have announced policies supporting low-altitude aviation through infrastructure development, industrial investment, and regulatory planning. Whether every project succeeds remains uncertain, but the scale of the ambition makes it clear that this is about far more than selling a new type of aircraft. If those plans continue to develop, the impact could reach well beyond aviation itself. A commuter living 40 miles outside a city might avoid traffic entirely by flying directly to work. Emergency medical teams could move patients between hospitals much faster during rush hour. High-value cargo could travel across urban areas without adding more trucks to already congested roads. Just as importantly, people might begin choosing different places to live if distance becomes measured in minutes rather than miles. We've seen this happen before. The automobile didn't simply replace horses. It transformed cities, reshaped suburbs, changed retail, influenced tourism, and completely altered the way people thought about distance. Transportation technologies rarely change only transportation. They change how societies organize themselves. That's why many analysts believe the real significance of electric aviation isn't the aircraft itself, but the possibility that it could eventually reshape urban life in ways that are difficult to predict today. None of this guarantees success. Battery technology still limits range compared with conventional aircraft. Regulators must ensure increasingly busy low-altitude airspace can operate safely, and public acceptance may take years to build. History is full of promising technologies that looked revolutionary before practical challenges slowed their adoption. The difference today is that this industry is no longer waiting for one miraculous breakthrough. Electric motors continue to improve, battery production keeps expanding, autonomous flight software grows more capable every year, and governments are gradually establishing the regulatory pathways needed for commercial operations. Instead of relying on a single revolutionary invention, electric aviation is advancing because dozens of existing technologies are maturing at exactly the same time. That may ultimately prove to be the most important breakthrough of all. For decades, flying cars represented a vision of the future that always seemed just beyond reach. Ironically, the future may not arrive as a car with wings, but as a completely new category of aircraft operating within an entirely new transportation network. Now, I'm curious what you think. If safe autonomous air taxis became available in your city, would you actually use one? Or would you still prefer to keep your feet firmly on the ground? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the engineering, technologies, and innovations reshaping our world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.